Welcome to the road to growth, success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, your Road to Growth listeners. Today I got Ryan. He is the CEO of Professional Hair Labs. Thank you, Ryan, for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Vinny. I'm really looking forward to having a chat.
Well, so the one thing I know you probably get asked all the time, and I knew you're thinking it. So if you're not watching us live, you're listening to us on the audio, you would not guess that Ryan shaves his head.
I do, yes. Just to dispel all curiosity and concern. I absolutely do, yes.
But you have a nice beard, so is that still kind of balances out, right? With the company, no look from new employees going. Hey.
No. Look, I think it's a lifestyle choice. So some people like to wear hair pieces and wigs, and I just enjoy having a beard. So it works for me.
Oh, I hear you, man. It took me a while later in life to realize there's a lot of products for your facial hair too. So it's another business I wasn't even worried about. But thank you for being here again. If a question I've been asking more and more is, if let's say you're an elevator, what's your elevator pitch? If someone goes, "Hey Ryan, what do you do?"
Yeah, so we manufacture cosmetic bonding adhesives for the hair and beauty industry. That's our main core service and offering. We have a whole series of products underneath that, but when somebody asks what do we really do, it's manufacturing innovative adhesion technology for the hair and beauty industry.
And your background, this business is a kind of a family-run business, and so growing up with your father kind of building this business, what was that process like? I've had a lot of second-generation businesses on here, and sometimes they can kind of go at each other a little bit. Other ones, it's more cohesive. What was that process for you when growing up?
Yeah, well, growing up, it was fine. Look, we were always involved in the hair replacement side of things. So, my mother was a master technician. My dad was like entrepreneur, business owner, and they had a very good synergy between the two of them. So they initially had hair replacement studios, and they had big client bases in New Jersey, New York, and Florida. And what happened eventually was my mother got chemical poisoning from the products that she was using, and she retired. So my dad decided to sell, and he made it a commitment to then develop a product line which was safe for not only the technicians applying the hair units, but also for the customers who were wearing hair units. So it was really an innovative technology at that point, and he was the pioneer in all of that. Naturally, as new technology comes to the market, performance might be limited, until new technology is developed. So for many years, from say 1994 all the way to say 2009, the technology remained the same in terms of adhesives. But then what happened was other companies came out with new products and patented technology, and it allowed us then the ability to go back to the drawing board and reformulate the base formulations and really provide a solution to the hair industry that was safe and that was effective, and that didn't the customers didn't need to worry about what was seeping into their skin or being used on their skin.
Well, I love what you said right there. It allowed us. Basically, other people were doing what we were doing, and it allowed us to go back. There's some people would say, well, we got a little screwed over because other people are doing it, and now we're losing inventory. At that point in time when you started seeing other people kind of take what you're doing already, was it happiness or was it like anger? What was that process like? Do you remember if it was you at the helm or your father? How was that response?
Yeah, no, so it was actually, I wouldn't say at that point I wasn't at the helm. I wasn't the CEO. I was kind of working more as a marketing manager type of role. I wore many different hats in the company to help it, progress and play my part. But look, naturally, when you see someone replicate or emulate what you're doing, there is that moment of, oh man, this is a bit I'm a bit fearful. I'm a bit worrying. But then, as time goes on, you kind of get used to it. You almost take it as a compliment, because we're constantly leading the way in what we do. And regardless of, if you have a really, high revenue month or, mid-range or lower range, ultimately, you're still at the precipice of the industry. So we're constantly leading the way. So when we see, competitors come in behind us and do the same thing, we already know in the pipeline, we're 10 steps ahead of them. So that kind of puts us at ease. As long as we stay in our lane and keep our focus, we know we have the knowledge to keep on the right path and make sure we're not only leading, but influencing the industry in the way it should be influenced, rather than trying to manufacture cheap products that are just not effective or safe.
How big, do you remember how big your company was, your team was, people wise, during that time, in that window?
At the very beginning? Yeah. So there was actually only 3 people, believe it or not.
Okay.
Very low 6-figure revenue. And then over from 2009 to 2010, we made some really simple changes and we tripled revenue. We changed our marketing strategy. We actually went direct mail marketing directly to hair replacement studios. And that, to me, had the biggest impact in, what kind of catapulted and helped us to achieve consistent growth year on year. So there was 3 in 2009. And if you look at us now, we have about, I think we have 23 at the moment. So it's, it's growing.
Do you think there would have been, because when you have 3 people, you could probably get everyone in the room. Hey, we gotta veer a little bit this direction. We got to change the way we're doing it. With 23, it's, hey, I got to get everyone here, get everyone on the same page and kind of going forward. Do you think it would have been as smooth of a transition if you would have had the amount of people you have today back then transitioning to the new model?
Absolutely not. In fact, I think we would have collapsed. Look, and the reason being is that, as you're growing a company, you learn a lot. And, look, we were, even though the company had been around since 1994, realistically, it only really truly was in its infancy around 2009 when we started to actually grow. So, I think if we would have had a team like that back then, the systems wouldn't have been in place, the communication channels wouldn't have been in place, and the leadership wouldn't have been in place. Look, one person can't run a whole company with, even with a small amount of employees like we have, say, 23 employees. It just, you need a leadership team in place to do that. And if we would have been in that position back then, it wouldn't have ended up well, I don't think.
Now, when in that process did you start transitioning, I guess, to taking over the helm and kind of running the company?
It was about 3.5 years ago. So it was myself and my 2 brothers and my dad, who, look, he works more, I suppose, in a consultant's position at the moment. If we have any high level stuff that we need to make decisions on, I mean, he's a board member. We run it by him, but ultimately it's myself and my 2 brothers, who run this. So we really set a different structure in place, not only from a tax perspective, but, from a company operations perspective, that saw me take over that position in 2018. And, my brother, Daryl, he took vice president role, and my brother David took COO. And we've been kind of building out the teams in different departments since then, based around those responsibilities.
Do you recall when that kind of succession period was kind of happening, of how your father divided the roles and allowed you guys not to fight with each other? Because, I mean, I've had people on here that are married couples and they work together, and sometimes you can kind of see there's bickering unless there's a separation of power. I can only think for brothers, there would be kind of the same kind of way of doing it too. Yeah.
So, you know what? We're no different than anyone else. There's times where we've had friction, and there's times where we've had, challenges. But realistically, the one great thing that we all have is the ability to sit down across the table and respectfully communicate and openly communicate. Because so far to date, there hasn't been a single issue that has cropped up that hasn't been solvable. Some take longer than others, but look, yourself, some things take time to filter, and you need to think about what the best moves are for the company. And look, there are times where it has been a challenge, but we've gotten through it.
getting through it, I mean, what's that process look like? What do you guys do to kind of work through it?
Well, typically it might be taking some time to ourselves, just to think about, our own responsibilities, our own actions, how we want the company to proceed and what we want the future of this company to look like. And then realistically, we divide that up into what part of that falls into each other's individual roles and responsibilities. And then we get together and we just put it all on the table. We prioritize. And what we realized at the end of it is that, some of the things that we were thinking might not have been so important are actually way more important. And we just reprioritize them and get them handled. So I would say that the succession part of the transition of the company versus, really refining our own impact that we have on the company has been a long process. And even when we were put into our positions, I mean, look, we openly took a look at ourselves and we put down on paper where we thought we could fit best and guide this company best. And there wasn't a single point in that communication process where there was any friction about who should take what role, because we're fairly open enough to know where our strengths and where our weaknesses are. And, in places where I have weaknesses, my brother Daryl hops in there and my brother David would hop in there and vice versa. This is how we continue to progress and move forward. It's a game of support. You can't do it all on your own. And most importantly, I think you need to leave your egos outside. It's like, look, we're human beings. We all have egos, but it's also very powerful when, you let that go and realize that, look, you can't solve it all. You can't do it all. And sometimes the simplest bit of input from someone else will make the biggest impact on your problem.
In these 3.5 years since you've been at the helm, has there been anything that you wish you would have knew working with your brothers in the capacity that you're in now, back then when you guys originally kind of got your positions?
Absolutely. For me, it was about, it's okay to let go. I had this, for many years, I had this, I wouldn't say micromanagement, but this fear of like, no one's going to be able to do it as good as me. And I just kept going and going and going. But what I realized as we started to grow is that is absolutely not the truth. And, with the right people on the team, with the right experience and the right mindset and just the commitment to the company, it very well, it plays out much different than you think in your head, so that was a personal development, role for me. It's like I have mentors that I work with. I have a good circle of close friends, and even my partner, who helps me, decipher a lot of things sometimes when I'm not looking at it correctly. So your circle is just as important as any mentoring.
How did you kind of come across the right, I guess, mentors or putting the people in your circle? I mean, this is something, especially because I have so many coaches and consultants and people that offer value to business owners. Yet there's a lot of false coaches, I guess, out there on social media and mentors. So finding the right one can be difficult for some people. So for yourself, how were you able to weed through to find the right fit for you?
So growing up in the industry that I was in, and look, quite openly looking at the mistakes that were made throughout my life, in business, watching my mom and dad with their own, I realized very quickly, that outside help is definitely important, especially when you've got individuals who you would connect with that have a lot more experience than you would, or they've achieved the exact things you're looking to achieve. So for me and my personality, I always take one step back and I take a long look. I made the commitment to myself that I was going to find someone that was going to help me and help the company move in the right direction, because I knew very clearly where we were falling short. And I sat and I just looked at the space and I did a lot of research, and there was one or two people who were standing out to me. We were looking for business operation mentoring, and for me personally, it was about mindset mentoring, because throughout my whole life I suffered from huge imposter syndrome. It's like I always spent time learning, and I would apply it, and then things would work, but I never really put myself into a mindset of just like, look, you're doing it, it's working. You're trying some stuff and it's not working, but ultimately you're moving forward. So I never kind of gave myself the credit for that. And so when it came down to it from the business operations perspective, I've been working for the last, say, 5 years now, 4 years with Alex Sharfin. He's been himself and his team have been incremental in a lot of the business processes that we've put in place. And because of that, we've been able to put the systems in place to let go a lot of stuff that we would have normally been very hands-on with. And I think that's been a huge help.
Yeah. So do you think the mentor, I guess, aspect of it has allowed you to kind of work through the imposter syndrome that you were previously going through? Or was it more internally, externally? I mean, what was, I guess, giving you that confidence to say, I mean,
yeah, it was a mix of both, so there's a lot to be said for being able to sit around, a table of individuals who are moderate to very successful business people, and to feel like you're not afraid to speak up, and enabling you. Like, I'm a firm believer, like if you walk into a room, right, and you're so intent on spilling all of your knowledge and everything, and you don't give anyone else the space to speak, it's just, you're going to learn nothing, right? So I spent a lot of time, going into these masterminds or these rooms and just listening and picking up, and you very quickly see that. So for me, it's really about, it was a mix. So it was a mix of personal development and learning, and for me, looking at the whole scenario of, walking into a room with people who have achieved a hell of a lot more than you have, and being able to confidently sit there and listen and engage and participate confidently. I think that goes a long way to showing how far you come as an individual, because you're not just trying to speak out of turn or say things that don't have any truth to them. You're just literally talking from experience, and that's kind of the moments where you realize it's like, look, we have done a lot, and we have experienced a lot, and we have solved a lot of problems, and there is a lot of information there that can be shared to help other people or businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I think the brain dumping, right, in those conversations probably comes from some sort of imposter syndrome. That's why they're doing that. They're trying to show their worth. So I could totally appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it is, and you realize at the very beginning, well, maybe not everyone, but for myself, it was, when I was back in, say, the early 2010 to 2015, years, for us, it was really about that. It was just like, everything that I learned, I wanted to share. But what I realized is that I was spending so much time sharing it, I wasn't actually listening enough. But how are you supposed to learn anything if you're not just willing to just take a step back and just shut up for a while?
Yeah. Well, we're talking about kind of taking a step back, kind of learning. We talked about this before we got on camera about copycats and people kind of taking your brand. I mean, I know we briefly talked about other people using kind of the model, but was that kind of the same thing that you're talking about the copycats and people kind of using your stuff overseas, or was that something different?
No. So this was probably, I think, one of the biggest learning curves from us. Look, black market has always existed, whether it's designer clothes or cosmetics. It's there, and it'll never go away. But for us, where it became a battle is we didn't have the right trademark protection in the right countries, and because of that, the counterfeiters. So it started in China. Basically, what happened was, and I remember it very clearly. It was about 4 years ago, and I just remember the day that I saw a bottle of our product that looked like our product, almost identical, but it wasn't our product, on AliExpress. And I didn't think much of it other than oh, someone's trying to copy our product. I still didn't even have a remote clue of the impact and the challenges that were about to ensue on the back of this. So when we started seeing more and more pop up, we were discussing it with our our IP attorney, and they had advised us, look, it might be worthwhile taking a look at some other countries to protect yourself in, because at that point we only had it in our protection in the United States, where our main marketplace was, and Canada at that point, I believe, or maybe it wasn't Canada, but we definitely had it in the United States. So we went to go trademark it, and we realized that somebody in China had intentionally went and trademarked it, and so automatically, and it had been approved and everything. They had trademarked it a year previous. So you have, people in these different countries who will look for that opportunity to trademark company brands that have not, in areas that they haven't done yet. So what that will effectively enable them to do is not only manufacture the product in the country, but also use your exact labeling and everything and product name. Now, legally, if they ship it into countries that have a trademark, that's illegal. But because they have the ability to manufacture it under the trademark in their country, they have so many back channels that they can utilize and take advantage of. I mean, it got so bad for us at one point where, look, I'm estimating that the current activity is costing us anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000 a month in sales. That's how bad it is for us at the moment. It was worse than that, a year ago. So what we were able to do with our own trademark was we had investigators in China who approached the individual who had our trademark, and he basically tried to blackmail us and say, listen, I'll sell it back to you for X amount. And we then, leveraged that conversation because it was recorded with the Chinese trademark body. And fortunately for us, they saw this and they revoked the individual's trademark rights in China. So it allowed us to go in and re-trademark our brand and obtain it. So, but in that time, in that space of time where they had that trademark, they penetrated every single distribution channel we had. And we, even as recently as last week, we do constant test buys across different geographical locations around the world through our different networks. And, look, we're still getting counterfeits popping up in retail stores. So what we've done on the back of that, when we realized, look, this is not a problem we're going to be able to solve. This is a problem we're going to have to try to manage. So what we did is we developed a custom software, an anti-counterfeit software, which enables us to place non-replicable codes on our packaging. And we have our own app that our customers can now download. And when they buy something in a retail store, they can scan that app. And if that code does not, if that's not in our system, it will register as counterfeit, and they can report it directly from the app, and it'll come to us, and we can start to investigate. So this part of the process for us is starting to work and starting to make people realize is that, look, if this doesn't come in the package, if it doesn't have the key indicators that we show our packaging to have, then it's highly likely it's counterfeit and they should not be buying it.
So your customers are doing this out of the goodness of the heart, or are they to like scanning it or checking it, or is it more the distributors? Or
it's the safety. So it's really about the safety side of it, Vinny. So it's not the customers doing it out of the good of their heart. The type of product that we manufacture is for use on skin. So the counterfeiters were putting very cheap products that had chemicals and they're burning people's skin. So naturally, the first port of call is like, okay, look, I need to do a patch test with this product before I make the full application. And that will usually tell very quickly what type of product they have.
Oh, makes sense. Did you, because people were possibly getting their skin burned on these counterfeits, did you ever have any lawsuits where people were trying to sue you, yet they were technically trying to sue the counterfeiter, but they didn't know?
Yeah, fortunately for us, that hasn't been the case. In a lot of cases where there has been reactions, look, we know how to deal with them very effectively in terms of asking the right questions to make sure that we get a good, clear understanding of the product they have in their hand. And look, they're cosmetic products. Look, sometimes there is a slight reaction, never really anything too serious, but with these counterfeits, it's a very serious reaction because they're chemicals. So once we're able to ascertain if it's a counterfeit, we always go above and beyond to help the customer, because look, it's an absolute it's just so unfortunate when something like that happens. So what we do for them usually in cases like that is, we get the information of where they bought it, and then we try our best in a lot of cases not to go down and chase everyone through a legal route, because there are some companies who actually don't realize they're carrying counterfeits. There's a lot of on-road sales reps that goes especially through the United States, and what we try to do is we launched a counterfeit replacement program where we give the opportunity to a counterfeiter, somebody supplying counterfeits. They have an option. They can we'll swap out, the counterfeits for legit products once, and they can continue to buy from us directly or one of our reputable distributors. And that's really the option we give them, because look, we don't want to chase down every single, counterfeit case we have, because ultimately they all lead back to a bigger source. But what we really want to do is we want to educate and, train and show that, just because you're saving a few dollars on a counterfeit bottle, you're going to cost yourself a lot more in the long run, because somebody will end up bringing a lawsuit against you for selling them,
I mean, it sounds like you guys are putting a lot of money into protecting your clients with all these things. Do you think, the mom and pop company that you guys had originally would have had the finances, or to even do the steps you're doing now? Or is there probably no way that a company like that would be able to do these kind of things?
Yeah, no, I think if you have the knowledge,
Right.
I think there are ways that you can be very meticulous about the type of money you spend and how you protect your brand. But when you get to the level of selling, $1 million plus a month of adhesive products, it does require an investment, a consistent investment to protect it. Because even if you have all the trademarks in the world, you're still going to be chasing down counterfeits. We didn't have the knowledge, 5 years ago when all this kicked off. And fortunately for us, we were in a phase of really heavy growth. So the resources and the funds were there to protect the brand and set the foundations to move forward with it. But if you were a small mom and pop operation that where we were, and you had a product that was taken advantage of very quickly in the marketplace, there are things you can do. But I think realistically, if you were to ask me, what would be the key countries if you were a company in the United States or Europe, my thing would be, get an EU trademark, get a US trademark, and get a Chinese trademark, and then build from there. Because ultimately, any or most counterfeits, these days do come straight from China. So at least you have the option of fighting it or combating it at source if you have that trademark in place at the beginning.
Makes sense. Let's say we're talking 5 years from now. Where do you see your business going, yourself going? Even maybe these copy companies kind of going. Where do you see that all going in the next, say, 5 years?
Yeah, so for us over the next 5 years, we're transitioning at the moment. We're transitioning from the manufacturing of adhesive, shampoo, scalp treatments for the hair and beauty industry, but we're moving deeper into the cosmetic space. We've acquired 17 acres in Florida to expand our operations. We're just on the cusp of acquiring another large warehouse production facility here in Ireland, where I'm located, to expand our manufacturing operations. So we're trying to take the same principles that we use to create our adhesive products and the methodologies we've used to move it over and create cutting edge cosmetic products that are high quality, safe for people to use, and they kind of push the boundaries of innovation from a cosmetic perspective. So the next 5 years unquestionably are looking like that for us at the moment. By the end of 2022, we're going to have 30 new products in our lines, and they're going to basically be off the shelf products where we can provide them to any beauty or hair company that are currently in operation or thinking about starting. We have an off-the-shelf formulation that we can tailor to their needs, and this is really this is the road we're traveling down now, because we know we have the customer service, we know we have the resources, we know we have the commitment. Because look, let's face it, the reason this company was built in the first place was from an aspect of safety, and this is what we hope to maintain, and we will always aim to maintain. So that's what the next 5 years looks for us. In terms of counterfeits, we're just going to keep moving forward with our plans. As I said, we're not going to be able to fully stop it at any point, but we can manage it. And we do, I mean, we remove 600 plus listings online, every few days of counterfeits in different parts of the world. And one of the fortunate things for us is that, with the systems we have in place and the resources, we're trying to turn a negative into a positive here. So the negative side is all these countries in the world have counterfeit products into their distribution channels. But the moment we get a hold of those distribution channels, we can then take the work that those counterfeits have done in terms of brand recognition. We can repair the damage that's been done, and we can build, a following in those countries and get, solid distribution. So that's really where our focus is on that side for the next 5 years.
They're kind of sloppily helping your expansion.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? It's a long-term gain for a short-term pain. And look, as long as we keep doing what we're doing, we're confident that we'll take back a lot of that market share.
So is your headquarters based out of Ireland?
So our principal manufacturing facility is based out of Ireland, but our headquarters for distribution and fulfillment and production is in Florida.
Oh, okay. Are you from Ireland or from the U.S., from Florida? Where are you from?
I was born in New Jersey myself. So
okay.
My mother's Irish. My dad was born in New York. So look, that's kind of how that came to be.
What brought you to have the manufacturer in Ireland compared to Florida? Are they more open? Is it just because of history there with your mother being from Ireland, or what?
It's a mix. Yeah. So it's a mix of all things, really. What we found is that, look, realistically, when it comes to manufacturing, the EU is probably one of the most stringent and strict, places in the world in terms of compliance. So we know anything that we manufacture, in Europe, it's held to the highest of standards. And then, with Florida, we are going to be expanding the production and manufacturing there eventually. But for right now, we have a really good system in place. And until we perfect and refine our systems here in Ireland, there's no point in rolling them out yet. It's like we have the team and resources here. We'll perfect it here, and then we'll replicate.
Makes sense. Well, I appreciate you, Ryan, for being here. Thank you for getting our knowledge. Any last words, any last thoughts to maybe anyone listening right now? Maybe someone's listening and they want to hear more about your product, more about what you guys are going to do in the future. What's the best way of them reaching out to you?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Our company website is prohairlabs.com. But look, we're on pretty much every social channel. So, if you're thinking even about, starting a business in the hair or beauty industry, or you have one and you're looking for more products, look, we're the point of contact to come to. So we treat every custom formula project with the same degree of importance and compliance, across the board.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you again for being here. Everyone listening, go to the show notes. The show notes should have all Ryan and his team's information in there to follow on their social media platforms. Just because he doesn't have hair on his head doesn't mean he doesn't have the knowledge of how hair should look.
Absolutely. And for everything else, we have a team around us that can help with everything. So, but no, Vinny, I really appreciate you, taking the time to have me on. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure is all mine. Thanks, guys. Please subscribe, please share, and go find Ryan. Bye, everyone.